Hey, this is Bill from Restoring Christine. Last week when we were working on our Bel Air, I had a compressor failure. It wouldn't hold pressure. Every time the pump would kick on, it would get the tank up to 140 psi or so, and the pump would the switch would trip, the pump would go off, and then the pressure relief would just keep relieving pressure. It would bleed off pressure off the pump, and it would never stop. And I couldn't figure out what the issue was. I thought it was the switch, but I did some internet research and some YouTube exploration and figured out that there's a check valve that has probably failed right at the top of this tank. So that's what I'm going to do this week. I'm going to show you how you may have this very same problem. This is pretty universal to all compressors. They all have this part. So it's failed on mine. Maybe it's failed on yours. So let's see if we can't show you how we're going to fix this. So the modifications that I made to my system are pretty self-evident. You can see them. Normally this pump discharges directly into the tank. So there's normally a copper line that just goes straight from the discharge side out of the head to the intake of the tank. Everything that's in between here is all me. So what I added was I added a heat exchanger, a little radiator if you will. So the hot air comes off the head, goes into this little cooling system. There's a 12-volt fan that blows against it. Hot air is in the top, cool air is coming out of the bottom, so now all the moisture in it is condensated. It's condensated, it's picked up by an oil trap, a particulate trap, and then a desiccant filter on this side. So the moisture should be falling out into this first one, but some of it does get by, and the rest of it, most of it, not all of it, most of it is picked up by this desiccant trap. And then trash is in between. So what I like about this is not an oil-free compressor. There's definitely oil in it. In fact, you can see the oil indicator. There is always going to be some amount of oil that is going out of the pump and trying to get into the tank. Well, my little filtration system intercepts it before it gets there. So what's happening now, so here's what the problem is with my compressor. When the pump would kick on, everything would work fine and the pressure would get up, but then as soon as it would get to 135 psi, this switch would trip, it would turn the motor off, the pump would stop pumping. Normally there's like a little 3-second bleed down. You can hear the air bleed down, but that was constant and it was staying on. The air bleed down was just, it would never stop. So there is a bleed down valve here that what it's designed to do is to make sure that it bleeds off the system pressure off of the pump so that the pump's not holding pressure. But the second part of that, and this is what's failed on this compressor, there's a check valve right at the top of the tank. So this check valve, what happens is when the pump kicks off, that check, and the pump is not overwhelming the check valve closes. There's a little tap here that allows all this system air to bleed down. There's a Schrader valve in here that bleeds down. All that's working fine, except this check valve seems to not be seating. So it's only $12 to get the check valve for this from Grainger Parts, from Grainger. I was able to pick it up curbside in my town, didn't have to order it online. So that's really what we're going to find out if that's the problem here. I'm pretty sure that it is. So I'm going to go ahead and take this apart, replace that valve. But before I do that, let me show you. I'll turn this on and off and show you what this compressor is doing. I started the compressor and I went to show you what it was doing and it didn't do it. So I didn't take a chance. I already bought the valve, so I said, well, I'm going to change it anyway. And it's a good thing I did, because look, here's the valve that came out. This is the check valve. This is sitting on top of the compressor. So I have a flare fitting on the top. That's what attached my discharge line into the tank. But here's the check valve. I don't know if you can see that. Look at all that corrosion. That is ridiculous. That's a lot of corrosion. And I know that this valve, it worked, it was hung up, it was sticking, and now I know why. It was because it was rusted. So I got a brand new one from Grainger. It's got a 1/4-inch port on it here, so you can see the port. The port is there. That's where the switch monitors pressure, and that's also where the air comes to bleed, or goes into the switch to bleed down. Then I've got to take this little Allen set out, put my monitoring tube back in, put this back into the tank, put it all back together, and let's see how it works. But you can see Here's the check side. Here's the inlet side. So when the pressure is pushing against this, it keeps it shut. It's all totally corroded. That's 6 months of use. So if you got a problem with your compressor and it's starting to do this to you, $12 probably will fix it. So let me put it in and we'll test it out. All right, you saw what just happened there. So now the tank pressure is holding. It's kind of a little bit high. It's close to 150. It's supposed to kick off at 135. So tank pressure is holding. Check valve's holding. The Schrader valve did its job in here. So this switch, once it read the pressure from the signal tube, it tripped the switch, shut the motor off. Then the Schrader valve allowed the pump, once it stopped, it allowed all this pressure on this side to bleed down. And once that bled down, now the pump is allowed to be able to kick on without being deadheaded with solid pressure behind it. So it'll be able to ramp up. And you can see the pressure now on the side of the pump is now down to 0. So I've got it fixed. Well, look, that's going to do it. So if you've enjoyed this video, just give me a second for a brief introduction. My name is Bill, and my channel is Restoring Christine. I'm restoring this 1956 Bel Air right here, and this channel is devoted to the restoration of the car, do-it-yourself, all by myself, with my own hands in my garage. Weekend warrior, do-it-yourself kind of stuff. I'm about to get into some body work. I'm going to start another video. I'm maybe up to episode maybe 82 by now. But if you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate you giving it a thumbs up. And if you like my channel, I'd appreciate a subscription. So until I see you next time, please take care of yourself.